Welcome, everybody, to the Spayhar Initiative. Ross Spayhar here with you. I have another good episode coming at you right now. And for those of you who have seen my previous episodes, you know that there are things that I talk about that are triggering, things that will have you thinking, open your mind, expand your mind, which is great. This is what we want to do over here. And the whole podcast is about coming face to face with things that you have suppressed. And by suppressing those things, you are really suppressing your life, not moving forward where you want to be. So by coming face to face with that, we are allowing ourselves to move forward and become the person who we are meant to be. You have that voice, I'm going to help you find it. So I can't do that alone. I mean, I can, but it's fun to do it with somebody else. So as you can see, to my left, my right on the screen, you never get that right. I have with me Austin Hale. Austin is an awesome gentleman. He is a father, and well, I'll let him fill you in on everything. Anyways, Austin, thanks for joining me today, buddy. How's it going?
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me on here, Rob. I appreciate it. Hey, going well, man. Just preparing for second baby to be here. Yeah, got some things changing in our lives as always, which is good. It's like we're continuing to level up and continuing to grow and walk our process and support other people. So there's always something new happening each week. Yeah. So I'm happy to be here and share a little bit more about my backstory, man. I appreciate it.
That's great, man. Great. And you touched on it already, working on the process and bettering yourselves. And you and I, we are part of a group called Self Perfected, and it is a community that really supports one another to achieve their best selves, right? And like I said at the top of the episode here, we don't program not to come face to face with things in our lives. And those programs are really what is running our lives. We call that ego, right? Ego makes you feel,
Right.
well, do the same thing over and over again, and you're going to get the same thing every single day. So looking at that, can you elaborate a little bit more on process? Like, what do you mean by that?
Sure. So what we've seen, I mean, I was in like the mindset development space, motivation space, before getting involved with what we're doing with Self Perfected or using Techno Tutor or any of the tools. But Giselle was also my wife. She was also in like the spirituality space. I mean, she held meditation events. I was doing like mindset coaching for day traders. And it was something where we could notice within other people, but then we also noticed within ourselves that people were continuing to have the same issues or the same time looped events coming up within their reality over and over, whether it be like things that happen in physical reality or just like the mental emotions and the back chat and what you're saying to yourself over and over. And so I'm saying that because we were like, how does this actually change? And we were noticing that there's not a systematic type of duplicatable process within like the spirituality space or within like meditation. And you can tell somebody what to do, but they have this pre-program that makes them react to certain things. It makes them triggered by certain things, want to do certain things. And, even like the suppression you mentioned earlier. And so what we have now is a very easy to follow systematic process that doesn't just work for me or it doesn't just work for you. I mean, there's like hundreds, thousands of people around the world using this process and it's working for people. And it's moving everybody forward. And so with what we're doing now, it's very much more easily to duplicate and it's something that anybody can follow. And so it's just if you have the willingness to actually want to change. And like you mentioned, the ego stops a lot of that. So sometimes you have these firewalls and whatnot that come up and people, they want to stop doing process or you get triggered or you fall off for a little bit. And so, people, we've experienced that before. But the process, though, you don't just become a millionaire or like a billionaire by chance, right? It's a process. And so we're walking the process because it's important for not just us, but like the generations to come. And, Luna, my daughter, and our son on the way. And, the generations to come, it's like they don't have to face the same emotional struggles or the reactions or just the simple patterns that we did. And so we're the first wave. So we're the first wave to change that. And so, yeah, so that's a little bit of an insight like into our process so far.
Nice, nice. And you mentioned how, a lot of the things that we talk about, a lot of things that we do, it's easy. change is not easy, but the concept of change and the things that you can do to change yourself is easy. That's the remarkable thing.
Mm,
Like a lot of things we talk about, it's not like, oh my gosh, it's like, whoa, that's just way out there. It's no, man, it's just common sense. You just gotta be willing to open your eyes and look and have that self-realization, like, oh, okay, yeah, it is easy. It's just
right,
common sense, but we don't use common sense nowadays, right? It's like that's out the window. We have other people telling us what to do, like things like media and government, and but that's a
right.
whole other discussion. Um, but I do want to ask you. I should have asked you right at the top, man, and I do apologize for that. Is a little backstory about yourself, your family, and where'd you come from? Because I have known you for a while now, and I've seen you like since you came into the self-perfected community, and you know that the event we had in San Diego, and to where we are today. You've changed a lot, man. So give everybody an idea of, where'd you come from? I'm a sucker for a good backstory. So I like to hear where you started and
Yeah,
Giselle and like how did all this come to pass?
sure, sure. Yeah. So my backstory, I'm 30 right now. I'll be 31 this year. I came from Ohio. I come from Cincinnati, Ohio, a town called Fairfield. And man, grew up single mom. It's interesting. I will kind of go off right now in the beginning on this side point, which is pretty important. We're doing this process, and I mentioned that we're the first wave. And so, something that a lot of people face today, even people that are watching this right now, they might not have any idea about our group or self perfected or like this process or anything. But it's like the world is moving towards us not having to take responsibility and like the ultimate responsibility for ourselves, our emotions, our feelings, let alone our kids. And so I grew up, my mom, single mom. Um, my dad got my mom pregnant because they worked together, but he was already in a marriage with three other kids. And he had already had a child before with a woman, wasn't with her. And then now he's with a woman who he's married with and has three kids. And while he's in that, he has me. And so it's like he wasn't taking, there's a lot of great things about my dad that I found out basically when I was 27. That's when I met him. And I didn't, I only talked to him one time that I remember. And I was like 3 or 4 years old on the phone. And there's a crazy story behind that. Like reach out to me. I can talk to you a little bit more about it. But it's like my dad wasn't taking responsibility for that family, or else he wouldn't have had me.
Hmm.
Right. And then my mom, it's like uh, I had my grandparents around, my great grandparents around. So it was cool to be able to experience that. But my mom was working. My mom was dealing with her own struggles. With alcoholism. She was drinking a lot up until I was like 4 or 5 years old. And so she was taking me to my grandparents' house, but then she'd leave me there overnight, for like a day or two. And then she'd go out and party and then come back because she didn't want to be around me when she was drunk. And so not taking the responsibility of her kid and her own self within her kid and the emotions and everything that she's facing from getting, a white lady getting pregnant by a black man, then you're single, right? You don't have him in your life. And then any judgments and whatnot that she had. So I'm just saying that because it's like we're all in this space where we weren't really taught to take responsibility. We were taught to blame something else, even if it's the system, even if it's our job, even if it's, whatever it may be. So yeah, man, like I come from Ohio. It was good to have, I guess, the family around that I did. I stayed at my great grandparents' house a lot, up until I was like 6 years old. I would get on the bus, go to school over there, went to public school, played soccer a lot when I was younger, played different sports like soccer, golf. I like to run, I like to be physically fit. Um, a lot of people in my family weren't physically fit. So that's the reason why I was physically fit. Right. And so it's like we can notice the patterns behind why we do certain things is stemming from our parents, stemming from the people that we were around. But yeah, man, I went to a Christian school, eighth and ninth grade. that was pretty interesting, but the sports weren't really that competitive. So I was like on varsity being a freshman, and that just doesn't really add up. So I went back to the public school, finished out high school there. Um, Man, went to a junior college, had a few different jobs. I was working at a YMCA, and then I was working at a lawn care service. Started working at a restaurant when I went into college, and I did really well with that. I've liked talking to people. I like being around other individuals and just helping people have a good time. And so I did really well being a server at a restaurant called Papado. They're mainly like in Texas area, but they have one in Cincinnati where I was from. So did that, went up into management, was managing that restaurant when I was 19. So did that 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I moved out from there to California. So there's obviously, like, I could elaborate on all of this, but yeah, like, I mean, it's funny. Giselle and I were both engaged before we got married. It's like I was engaged to my high school sweetheart, and that fell apart, which is like a whole nother story. But it was like right around the time that I went to California, and I'm like coming out here. My buddy and I had a moving business, so we had a moving truck. Move out to California, start doing that. Was doing that for a number of years, and then I got involved with day trading. So we're still doing the moving business while I'm learning how to, teach myself how to day trade. And I end up meeting Giselle. And so there's like tons of stories that I have from riding a motorcycle or just traveling around, just managing the restaurant, whatever it may be that has happened in my life. But for the timeline right now, in a nutshell, right? It's like I was in Ohio, I moved out to California, and then while I was doing the moving business, got involved with day trading, improving the mindset, just sitting in a one-bedroom apartment in California. I'm like, how do I improve my life? How do I learn how to be an entrepreneur? How do I level my mindset up? And I really just took it and ran with it. I'm running ideas back off like the friends that I had, some family, some people that I used to know back in Ohio. And I was just like, why don't people just really want to grow? Like some people want to stay stuck. But then I was reflecting on how I was staying stuck in certain areas and ways and whatnot as well. But yeah, I met Giselle through day trading. So it was one of these things of like going to an event. And so we have this event coming up in Miami with Self Perfected. The last one was amazing. This next one's going to be even better. But the power of like actually taking action. And so we talk about this, like the needs versus wants. And you can want to do something, but when you're wanting to do something, it doesn't require physical action. But when you need to do something, if you need to eat, if you need to walk across the street, it requires a physical action. And so for me, I was like, no, like I need to meet new people. I need to grow my network, and I need to continuously expand myself. And so it's pretty funny. Like the event in which I met Giselle, it was at Jewel. So if you guys know Jewel, it was at Jewel's aunt and uncle's house here in Bakersfield. And so now Jewel's involved with our community and everything as well, which happened later. But he was having an event. My buddy and I were coming up from Los Angeles to Bakersfield. Is about a 2-hour drive. And we were supposed to have 3 other people with us, and they all canceled. And so he was like, hey man, do you really want to go like to this event still? And I'm like, yeah, we might get something out of it. It'll be good. We'll have great conversation on the way up and back. Let's just go. He's like, all right, I'll pick you up. We drive all the way up here. Now, Giselle, she was getting her hair done that day. And so her friend that was doing her hair, she does a really great job. She does hair for different music artists and celebrities as well. And so Giselle was getting her hair braided. Giselle was almost late to the event from getting her hair done, and she almost didn't go to the event. Her friend was like, yeah, you sure you want to go to your event? I mean, it's like we're right on time. She's like, yeah, I'll go. Like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. So we both end up going to this event and meeting each other. And for those of you who know us, it's like we've really hit it off where we are now. But it's the power of these events and then making a decision. So that was the first thing that brought me to Bakersfield. That was like my first time ever coming up here to Bakersfield. And we met at that event. She had liked the audio messages, the motivation that I was sharing within the group like chat that we were a part of within our trading community. And she was like, I like this guy. I just don't know who he is. He could be like 50 years old. I just don't even know. I've never even seen him. And so we met for the first time. And it was pretty cool because my buddy and I needed pictures taken. And I saw her and I'm like, wow, she's beautiful. But she was like right in the middle of this big group. And I'm like, he's like, who's going to take pictures for us? And I'm like, I got it. Don't worry. So I walked right in the middle of this group and I'm like, hey, can you take some pictures for us? And she was like, sure. And then she like walked away. And so I got it. Right. So I got her away from everybody. And so she walks over, and it's this really big, like nice mansion. They got like a great, huge backyard, huge pool, and everything. So Giselle was taking some pictures of my buddy and I. So I was like, "Oh, this is a chance for her to just focus on me and take pictures of me, and I'm gonna start to reel her in with this, right?" and so and so it worked. And so we started talking, and we started texting back and forth. She would come down to LA about every other weekend. And so, we spent some time together and we started dating. Shortly after that, a few months later, we found out we were pregnant with Luna. And so that was like an eye opener. And so I ended up not going into too many details, but I just wasn't totally in alignment with how my buddy who was running the moving business was handling himself on a personal level.
Yeah.
And so just not really going in alignment with some of the agreements that we made beforehand coming into the moving business. So I was like, hey man, like I'm learning how to do this day trading thing. I got my lady, she's got family in Bakersfield. Just go ahead and keep doing the moving business. I'm gonna go up to Bakersfield. And so I moved up to Bakersfield. And so that was in 2021. And so moved to California in 2016. And then, man, it was an amazing 5 years being out there in California, experiencing different things. I worked for a chauffeur company, and I was driving around royalty. And so it's like I met the Sheikh of Kuwait. I met some of the royalty of like Saudi family that came over as well. So it was really cool. I was exposed to a lot of different things, being in Bel Air, being down in like Palos Verde. I mean, just a lot of big areas like Beverly Hills and all that. So it was like a kid from Ohio coming to California. That's exactly what I wanted to see. And I was like right in the heart of all the Lambos and the mansions and the celebrities and these events and whatnot. So it was really cool. But then it was just like life plucked me out, and it was like, okay, you have something bigger to do. So let's take you out of, took me out of LA, and we're here in Bakersfield. And so she had family here in Bakersfield. I didn't have any family in LA. So I moved from LA up here to Bakersfield in 2021, in the beginning of it in March. And then, yeah, we had Luna in August. So it was such a ride, I could say, for Giselle and I to come together, right? We didn't have the tools. We didn't have process. We still had tons of emotion. We had terrible programming as far as communication was concerned. And so it was like for these two people who just knew each other for a couple months to now come together. And I mean, we really cared about each other, but it was this thing of like us actually meshing together and being able to live together in a functional way that was very difficult for us in the beginning. And so yeah, we did that, and then we're here and we've just been continuing to grow. Now that we have Luna, she's 2.5. She's super smart. She's super stable. We've been walking our process, and we look back at where we were. I mean, 1, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, let alone each of us individually, like 5, 10 years ago. It's like, wow, we're so much different. Wow, look at the way that we're seeing ourselves and taking responsibility and actually being able to direct ourselves in the moment. Whereas before, we were so emotional, we were so reactive, and we were taking actions just purely off of our feelings, of which the world mostly does. But that's the total opposite thing that you need to do if you're trying to create a legacy, if you're trying to create something of value with a strong foundation. So that brings us to where we're at. There's obviously tons of things that happen along the way, but just for the sake of time, yeah, that's where I am and where I've been. So
That is a hell of a ride. Just be the way you presented yourself and in your story, man. That's awesome. And if anybody out there is resonated with anything that he said, can you know, or thinking like, I've done that kind of stuff. I made the big move. How I met my significant other. You want to find out more information how he did things, how he was able to focus on things. I'm going to have his link in the description below. Reach out to him. Things start with a conversation. You don't get anywhere without speaking to somebody else, right?
right,
That's how it starts, just with the conversation.
yeah,
Now, so hearing that background and seeing you move forward, I want to talk about more about how you are raising Luna in trying to find the right words so I don't get canceled. Uh, um, Society nowadays it's out of whack. Okay, and I'll give you an example. I posted a reel the other day about a podcast, and they talk about relationships, and these guys always have women on there, and very eccentric women. And there was this one who identified as a dog, and she said woof
Hmm.
right on the microphone, and the guy was asking her questions, and asking like, what kind of relationship do you want? And she's like, oh, somebody who treats me as an equal. So you want a dog-dog relationship. No, I
Mm,
want somebody to come home and say, "Oh, I respect you for the person that you are." I'm like, "Well, you just said that you're a dog, so do you want to play fetch with that person?" The questions that were coming out is like he was serious, but on another level, you can hear it's like, "Do you hear how stupid this sounds?"
right.
But the reason I'm bringing that up is because that's where society is today. We have talked about this many times before, how it was coming down the pipe, and everybody was like, "No, it's not. That's not going to happen." Well, it's here now. It's here. And Austin, you talked about the first wave, how we are the first wave, and when we're gone, the second wave, the next wave is our kids. You're gonna have soon to be two kids, and I got two girls, and we want them to grow up in a world where they are future leaders and they can educate others. So how do you navigate your life? How do you raise Luna in this kind of a society? Seeing all this that's around, you can't block her from it. You can't shelter her from it. She's gonna
Right.
see it, right? So like, how do you
Right.
deal with these kind of things that are just like right in your face now?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And, just the principle of giving as you would like to receive. Like, I didn't have that support, especially emotionally, or somebody to explain things as they were happening. And so for us actually being right there. So, I mean, Giselle and I have struggled, man. Like, I've talked to you about that before, like financially, like fucking struggle. And, but she's always been home. Right. And that's what something that Avery was like, pat yourself on the back for that. Cause no matter everything that you've went through, those of you that know Avery know what I'm talking about. But he was like, you've kept her at home to where that's the best environment for our daughter to have Giselle, the unconditional love, right there at home with her. And same thing will be for our son. And being able to assist and support her in the way that we would have liked to be assisted and supported. That's the context that I'm coming from when it's like, how do I be a dad? How do I even be a partner? Because like I didn't even have a baseline of what it meant to be a dad. Like I didn't know. I didn't know. I mean, I would see some of my friends' dads, but I didn't have a baseline of what it meant to be a dad and then have the relationship always around me and seeing mom and dad interact. I didn't have that. And so, and Giselle had a very unhealthy, um, unhealthy example from her father and from her mother of how to interact.
Mm-hmm.
So we're giving as we would like to receive. We're expanding her vocabulary through the tools that we're using, and we're allowing her to be more stable. So we're allowing her to more effectively express herself. We're giving her the opportunity to express herself. We're talking to her and we're being patient. We're focusing on the breath. Like, let me slow down for a minute. Because as adults, it's like, okay, like I'm working a job, like I'm working a full time job as a manager, and then I'm working a side business, and then I'm being a dad. And then it's like I have time to just, for me, myself, very rarely, but it's like I spend that time with my kid. I spend that time with my wife. I'll spend my family time. I'll do a little workout with them. Luna's working out all the time with me if you watch like our social media or anything, right? So for me, it's about giving as you would like to receive, the presence, the interaction right there, and being the example, but then letting her know it's okay to express yourself. It's okay if you don't want to do something. It's okay if you do want to do something and we just say, no, like you don't need to do that right now. Well, a lot of times Giselle and I check ourselves and we're like, well, it's really okay if she does that. Like, we just don't want her to do it because maybe we will have to clean something up, or maybe we will just have to be a little bit more patient before we leave an event that we're at. And Luna just doesn't want to get in her car seat. So it's like, we're not just gonna, like shove you down in the car seat and it's like, we need to leave now. It's like, no, if we really aren't pressed on time, it's like, okay, like let's sit here and let's support our dog. So maybe I need to get some stuff done on my phone while like, we're talking and Giselle's talking to Luna about just like sitting in the car seat, but that's so like foreign nowadays because parents are just wanting to go, 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 go. And they're not present with their kids. They're not here. And being here requires the presence of you to stop being up in your mind and be here in the physical with your child. And so for me, I didn't have that. Giselle didn't have that. And so we see from also people that are doing it before us in the community. Okay, this is like the best way to raise our kid. And so let's try it out. Let's see what comes up for us. Let's take the responsibility. Let's be honest with ourselves within our own reactions and our own emotions and talk to our daughter about that. And so a lot of times, Luna sometimes will come up and she'll be like, she'll give me your hand, give mommy hand. And she'll hold my hand and Giselle's hand, and we'll all take breaths. We'll all take like 2 or 3 deep breaths together. But I didn't have that as a kid. I wasn't focusing on my breath. I wasn't focusing on like, okay, let me be back here in the present. So that's what it means for me, right? It's about being the example, but also giving as I would like to receive. Because I mean, if I was in her position again, I would like a parent like myself and like Giselle. And you know, a lot of times parents do what they seem is best, but within your self honesty, a lot of times it's just doing like the parents doing whatever was best for them. So it's like I could say that I'm doing what's best for Luna, but if I'm actually just being emotional and being reactive and wanting her to do what I want her to do, it's not really best for the child. And so there's like a silver lining, you know, you kind of read it with a grain of salt, like what I'm saying right now, but it's like you can realize when you're just participating in self-interest or when you're actually taking responsibility to do what's best for your child. And so that's the focus that we're like, that's the starting point of what we're doing within parenting our daughter.
And when we first started that, it seemed foreign to us as well. It's like, wow, like what does that mean? Like be here, be present. Like what does that mean? And it's
Yeah.
just no, I'm the parent, you're the child. What I say goes. So when we
Authority.
when exactly
Yeah.
when we actually, like go down to our child's level, meaning like get like eye level and just have a conversation with them. It's amazing the look that comes over their face. It's like
Yeah.
I'm being heard. Now, I'm not just saying this. This is serious. Like if any parents out there are looking like, oh, whatever. No, seriously, try it. There's a situation that arises where this happens. Don't react. Just go down to their level and just have a conversation. It's like, what's wrong? Talk to me. What are
Mm-hmm.
you trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
There's I've been doing this for a few years now already, right? And
Mm-hmm.
example for myself, I found myself getting frustrated in a situation, and Mackenzie, my youngest, she's 7, going to be 8 next month, just kind of tugged on my shirt and it's like, you don't need to get upset, you don't need to yell. And I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah. It's like,
You're right.
obviously.
Yeah.
But it was that moment where I caught myself. I'm like, yeah, like we're gonna catch ourselves in these certain moments, but when you catch yourself, that's key. That's important. But to have my daughter say that to me is a testament to what Lee and I are doing with our kids.
Right.
You don't
Right.
have to react. Those kind of reactions aren't gonna get what you want,
Right.
you know? So it's like seeing that, I'm like, oh wow, that's awesome. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and imagine if all children had this kind of guidance moving
Mm-hmm.
instead of reactions. And I see it all the time, and it's like, it's unfortunate. You want to say something, but it's really isn't your place, right? But you could always drop little seeds, little hints here and there to others. So if anybody is interested in knowing more about that, like reach out to either one of us and I can have a great conversation about that. We got stories upon stories, which is
Yeah. And I
it's
mean,
fun.
like we were just talking with a neighbor. I guess it was a couple months ago, but she was talking about how like, oh yeah, my daughter, she's just in her terrible twos right now. And Giselle was like, well, why does it have to be terrible? And
Yeah.
oh, because she's just, and she was like, oh, because she's just getting into everything, and she's just so curious, and she's just wanting to talk back. And we're like she's a kid, like she's 2. She now found her voice. She knows that no means something, yes means something. She knows that she can get an emotional response out of you. And so it's interesting because you're just the one that makes it terrible. Her finding out new things is now going to be labeled as terrible in her reality, you know? And it's interesting because it just all comes back down to the parents. Because they say that like the kids are the future, but we're the ones who are programming the kids. So you're the ones who you give them their environment, but yet you're saying that they're terrible. So really you're terrible as a parent, right? It's like what the heck?
In order to help them, we need to change ourselves. You
Yeah,
know,
be the change that you want to see, and that's just that point of responsibility. Because a lot of parents, it's like you could hear this right now, and you already have a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old or like a 16-year-old, and it's like, well, what do I do now? And it's like, okay, well, let's take responsibility for what you've created, and then we can start to work on it. But it's like if you are able to start taking responsibility for what you have accepted and allowed that manifested consequence up to the point it is now, if you can do that, that's a starting point, because a lot of people will never even do that, will never even take responsibility. I mean, my mom, like a couple months ago, my mom literally told me, I'm not going to take responsibility for the things that I've done in the past. And I'm like, well, that's why we're here now, mom. you know and so for me, it's like, okay, cool, I'm never going to be that for my kid. I'm going to be the change. And so being the first wave, it's like, okay, let me take responsibility, because it's so difficult to do that. And most parents don't want to take responsibility, especially if your kid, like, I mean, my mom is like, I was getting in trouble for drugs, and like I got arrested when I was younger. And I mean, the drugs is in smoking weed. And so that was something that my mom probably wasn't proud of, because she also struggled with alcoholism. And then she recreated that within her child, within a different drug. But it's all just a way of suppressing, it's all just a way of not having to take responsibility. Like the drugs and the alcohol just allow you to not have to take responsibility for your current state. And it's hard as a parent, to take responsibility for something negative with your child, because that it's your fault, but you don't want to take responsibility for it.
pride.
And but what'd you say?
It's that pride feeling. It's like, no, I'm
Yeah,
too proud to. That can't happen. I can't have my kid telling me what the hell's going on.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
I, I found that what's really really helpful in a situation, just ask. Just within your head, just ask: is this what's best? Is what I'm about to say or what I'm about to do best? Man, you're gonna find that answer pretty damn quick.
Mm-hmm.
Likely, it's gonna be nope. That's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be that's gonna be the response, because your initial reaction is not gonna be the right one. But ask
Yeah.
that question in that moment: is this what's best? And then you're gonna think, okay, what is best?
Right. Yeah, and the power of the breath, it's like one step back from that, like we had to just start to take a breath before we would respond. Because a lot of times it's like you're just running on autopilot so fast, you're not even asking yourself a question before you say it. So it's like, okay, when I start to get mad, I take a breath, and we started to put that phrase, in the TT and stuff, but it's like then we started to actually take a breath. It's like, oh wait, let me not say this right now, because it's not best for me to say this right now. But that's when you start taking responsibility, right? And that's when you're actually starting to be able to direct yourself and to change things. So yeah, that's a good point, man.
So you've touched on it already about TT, Techno Tutor.
Mm-hmm.
And people are probably wondering, what the hell is that? Well, it is
Mm-hmm.
a vocabulary software builder that we use that really, takes the thinking into the knowing, and really
Mm-hmm.
the negative power of words that we've been holding on to. And Leah's got a great analogy about this. When you get triggered about something, there is a word or a feeling attached to that, right? So you're resonating at a certain frequency. Like an opera singer, if they sing, they hit that right note, they will shatter that glass, right? And that's what TT does. It will find that frequency and shatter that, break that connection that you're having within yourself.
Yeah.
That's going on different levels with TT, but just to kind of put things into, more layman's terms, what it does for children, it really trying to find the best words here, because there are so many things I can say about this. Natural learning ability, 0 to 7, everything that a child is taking in happens within that window. And that's what TT does. It really brings it into the knowing, into their body, into their self. That's what TT does. And we use it every day with our kids. They're not in the public school system, half-hour a day, 45 minutes. And we see the results of it. We are a product of
Yeah.
it. And I wanted to ask you, since you started using it, what kind of changes have you seen within yourself and your whole family?
Yeah. I mean, you know, within my so okay, we originally got Techno Tutor because of wanting to homeschool our daughter. We didn't know we didn't know of ways to do that. We knew there was a bunch of different courses or programs or groups or whatever. But I was doing a mindset, it was called the Energy Accelerator. And so I would get people hyped up and motivated every day in the morning for a few minutes on a live Zoom call. And Thomas Kim was on, he would join, it was in our part of our day trading community. And so he would always get on my calls. And so he's like, hey man, if you're into the mindset and like the way that you're talking, you should check this out. And I'm like, all right, cool. So check it out. And so we realized, oh, we aren't going to just use Techno Tutor for our daughter, but we can use it for ourselves. Oh, this is how to actually change the programming, like unconscious, subconscious mind, because anything else is just done consciously. You're thinking, you're speaking consciously. So you're not able to tap into the unconscious or subconscious mind, even through like a meditation. The meditation just gives you the time and space to think uninterrupted, but you're not actually changing what's going on within the thought patterns and the starting point of why those things are coming up. You're just able to notice it. But a lot of people think like, well, if I just feel better, and it's like, that's why you're still stuck after all this time you've been motivated and doing meditations. But anyway, we within Luna and ourselves, what we've noticed is, that processing ability to increase within myself, within Giselle especially. And then we're noticing within Luna, I mean, she is speaking very quickly and she's speaking a lot of different words. So she's not able to articulate them as clearly just because of like the developmental, within her mouth and whatnot, just being 2 years old. But she has a very effective vocabulary right now. And then within the kids overall, they have a more effective like filter, you could say, because going out in public, especially if kids are in a public school setting, or even just going out to the park, going to the mall, being in a public setting, the thing that's valuable about Techno Tutor is it's giving the children a more effective filter so that if they see something that might not be best or that they question, they're actually able to do that. They're not having the self-esteem or self-confidence issues to not want to talk to somebody else. If they do, or if they are hesitant to do that, we're not like encouraging kids to just go talk to, anybody, but at the same time, it's like, well, what's coming up for you? It's okay to talk to this person, and we're right there supporting the kids, but it gives them that effective, that filter so that, okay, they're able to discern in a better way, not what's right or what's wrong, but more or less, okay, is this best? And let me question this. Let me learn about this. So they can also learn about things in a more effective manner as well, because they simply have the vocabulary. So, I mean, we see kids, like your daughters, I mean, like, what is it? Like Aria, like Max, like Seneca. I mean, tons of different kids in the community. They're able to learn about a wide variety of things way ahead of where they would ever be through like traditional schooling. And because we're able to assist and support them, they're having a more expansive vocabulary. And so that's how I'm seeing it help Luna. And then it also helped the other kids in the community. And then for myself and Giselle, I mean, it's impacting adults a lot because we hold on to so much from the past life, you could say, whether it's previous relationships, whether it's trauma, whether it's death in the family, whether it is our parents or other family members, like communication in the relationship that you're in now, even just building a business or going to work and then also being a parent. It takes a lot of responsibility to do those things. But those of us that are using the tools are now able to take on more responsibility, but have less stress while doing it because we have a higher processing ability, because we've worked through these emotions, not so that we don't feel anything, but so that we can accurately process it. We can take responsibility for it, be honest with ourselves about whatever we're experiencing, and we don't have a hesitancy as much as what we used to express it. And then whatever hesitancy we do have now, we communicate that with our partner, we communicate that with whomever it may be, walk this process within those words and those phrases within the tools so that we can be here actually living our lives and making moves and continuing to move forward in the physical, because so many people are living in our head. And so we noticed how much, and myself as well, I was living in my head. so much, and just thinking and thinking. And yes, you need to think to make decisions and to conduct business, whatever you need to do. But at the same time, you can make a judgment. Whereas, like, no, I'm just staying up in my head way too much. Like, let me take some action. Let me make this real in the physical and not just keep it up here. So that's how, we can see it within ourselves. And then we can see it within the kids in our community as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I mentioned the natural learning ability at the top of this topic, and how important that is for all children to really, and parents, to be aware of what is actually in front of their child. A lot of people are throwing an iPad, a cell phone, TikTok, TV, all that kind of stuff, right? Little do they know that these children are taking all this in like a sponge, and
Yeah.
that's going into the program, right? And this is what's going to go with them as they get older. And once that natural learning ability closes, it's harder to reopen it. It's not
Hmm.
impossible, but that's what TT does. It reopens that natural learning ability, especially for us older folk. You know,
Right.
talking about
Right.
thinking and being in your head. Yeah, when you're thinking, are you thinking with ego, previous patterns, or are you thinking with a clear head?
Yeah.
And that's what it's done for us. And it's remarkable. When I first got it, I was like, what the I was a typical guy. I'm like, whatever, I don't need it. I'm good enough as it is. Oh wow, was I wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. Same here, man. I mean, like, the thing that really got us to use TechnoTutor more, I mean, we got it, and then I would say for about a week or two, we would kind of use it sporadically here and there. We weren't reading any of the other resources, or listening to any audios or anything, but just using TechnoTutor. It was about a couple weeks, and then I had an argument with Giselle, and she's she's very sarcastic, and so not near as much anymore. But that was a huge thing, and and now looking back on it, and then now uh, talking to my dad, seeing how he was in person. He's passed now, but seeing how he was in person for like the couple years when I met him until he passed, he doesn't tolerate 1 ounce of sarcasm, and like don't talk back or any type of thing like that at all. And so I noticed that I didn't like that either. But then in previous relationship, I noticed that I was so triggered by sarcasm. And so we had a terrible argument, and it would happen about once a month. It was like everything else was great. And then about once a month, we'd have just this blowout argument. And so what I was like, okay, this tool can change stuff, right? All right. It neutralizes these words, right? Okay. They were talking on a support call about my back chat and what I'm thinking. Okay. Giselle is sarcastic. I hate sarcasm. Shut up. I started putting all these things, these words that were in my head, right, into TechnoTutor. And so then it was the next time it happened, right? I continued to work on that. And so it was like a week or two until like we had another argument. The next time it happened, I noticed when it was happening, I saw the emotions start to come up, and I didn't respond the same way. And so then, because I wasn't reacting to what she was saying in the same way, and I was just supporting her, I was just there having a conversation, she had to take the fence of, and then the next time we get on here, she can tell you this story too, like when she's on here as well, right? But it's like she took this stance of, oh, he's not reacting anymore. Now I just sound crazy, right? Because he's actually supporting me, and I'm just over here like just giving him an earful for essentially nothing, right? Because it's not getting us anywhere. And so that helped her to see like, oh, okay, I just need to put in the work. I just need to use this tool. It's not really that hard to do at all, but it's my ego not wanting me to change, to continue to create that negative energy, because the negative energy lasts longer and it's stronger, right? So our mind doesn't know the difference. So it wants us to keep creating these stupid situations that happen over and over. And people wouldn't even think that, because they're like, your mind is on your side and all of this in the spiritual realm. And it's like, no, it's not. It just creates energy. And you are being duped by the mind and the ego right now by saying that. So yeah, I mean, that was like the main kicker for us, to where we are like, oh, this works. We just need to use it. And so yeah, we're using that towards our money resonance, just energy towards money, towards relationship, whatever it may be. It's like these words have such an impact on our physical because our DNA, the DNA helix strand, is made of letters. And so the letters make words, and the words make sentences. And that's where our thoughts are coming from. And so it's like when you're able to neutralize these words, you're able to literally physically impact the body as well. And so that was like the main kicker for us, to where it's like, oh, this works. Let's start using it more. And so then at that point, we started using it more.
Nice, nice. So ultimately, I want to change things up to, business and success mindset. And we can
Okay.
drop a few nuggets here for people who are, having a little bit of a hard time moving things forward. I never had that business mindset growing up, and I'm sure a lot of people haven't. But that shit's changed. And the main reasons for that is because I have a purpose now, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And the principle of give as you like to receive. The knowledge that I have, not just myself, but yourself and a lot of people within the community, we have very important information to get out to people and educate others. And the whole goal of that is to make, a world that is best for all, ultimately, right? Best for our kids after we're dead and gone. So, quick question to you. How do you juggle both parenting and, because you're on the same mission as I am, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you juggle parenting and building a business in the context of what is best for all? How do you handle both? Because that for a lot of people that seems like that's a lot of work. That's a lot of pressure to put on a human being, be a parent and do what's best for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like this concept within working out. If you've ever worked out, it's kind of hard to go to the gym and, let's say, lift up like a 20-pound dumbbell, but then you get stronger and you have to lift up a 30-pound dumbbell. But really, it's just as hard as when you lift it up to 20-pound dumbbell. It's just a little bit easier to get yourself to move and do it. So it's not easy for me to build a business. It's not easy for me to get up. It's not, the point isn't to wish that it was easier, wish that you were better, right? So this part of like pain, I've always wanted to not have pain, or not have like the responsibility point, but not have pain. I didn't want it to be hard, but nobody remembers the person that lives an easy life, right? And then if it's easy, then the hard thing's gonna come. It's gonna, like, the easy life, wanting something easy. Well, how are you going to get stronger from that? You're not going to be any better. You're just showing your kids to just do what's easy, and that equals working a job and having somebody else take the responsibility for how much you get paid when you work, what you can provide for your family. And that's what I've had. I had worker family, my whole lineage is just workers. And so I need to change that. Right? Somebody has to change this. And so for me, it's not easy. It's not easy. But for me, it's realizing that, like, if I don't do it, it's never going to get done. And if I'm not going to do it, then my son's going to have to do it. And Luna's going to have to do it for the first time. And so what I realized is that you don't just experience regret at the end of your life. Like, people talk about, like, oh, in your deathbed, you're going to regret the things that you haven't done. Yeah, you will. Okay. I get that. But also, you're going to regret them now. You're going to regret them in a year. And so I've experienced regret, and I'm 30, where I'm like, man, I could have done that. Man, I could have put in some more work over here. Oh, I could have done this better. And so it's not like a lack to where I always need to be better. But at the same point, it's like, nah, I could have done more. I could have been more effective with my time. And so we always hear from a young age, the millionaire and the impoverished person has the same 24 hours in a day. It's just how you use them. But we just kind of think of, like, oh, there must be a difference between me and the millionaire. And it's like, no, they just put in work. They just continue to put in the work. And yeah, it's been difficult. It's been difficult to learn about money. It's been difficult to learn about how to build a business. It's been difficult to, like, face the pain and be away from my family. Like, I literally grew up with my great grandparents who were both retired, and they would just sit around and watch TV all day. And so for me, I just want to be at home and sit around all day. But that's not going to pay the bills. It's not going to build a business. And so for me, it's like, no, I have to change that. And then getting from a space to where like I don't want to do something, I need to do something because all of my actions before had been dictated off of a feeling. I mean, same with my dad, same with my mom, and other family as well. And so not now focusing on not doing things based off the feeling, but doing things based off what's best. That's been something that that's really helped me lately. Now, yeah.
Well, how do you, in a conversation with somebody, just hypothetically speaking here, you have a conversation and somebody brings up, hope and oh, it's all about climate change. We got to change this. And knowing what you know, how do you approach conversation with that person? Because based on that, because we know about hope, we know a lot of things, not just climate change, but there are numerous other things that are being pushed on society, and we disagree with it because we know the truth,
Mhm.
right? Like, how do you approach a subject like that, or how do you approach a person like that with that mentality?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, really talking to somebody about where they're giving away the ability to create something and they're putting the responsibility on it being created onto someone else. To where I grew up in the Christian church, and so it's like God is going to do something for me. It's like no, but in the same Bible it says deeds. What is it? Faith without deeds is nothing, I guess. And it's like no, you still need to take action. So it's like we could hope for a change, but that's not going to actually bring it here. We actually have to do something. We actually need to create. And so we know that if you're participating in this hope, then like, well, then you're not creating something yourself. Like I created life. Luna's here, baby boy's on the way. And so right now my focus is responsibility. And my that's a huge focus for me. Like the responsibility, the taking of responsibility. And so I could even say to that person, it's like you have everything to lose that you haven't created yet. And so we're talking to some of the guys at the event last year about that point. I was talking to Jude, Ali, different guys there, John Tran. And it's like you have everything to lose that you haven't created yet. So if you think that there's a problem within the system or within your community or within the freaking climate change and you're hoping for a change, well, you're literally not doing anything to actually move that needle forward. And you have everything to lose that you haven't created yet. So some people out here, you might be a single guy, you might be a single lady, you might be a guy who's got millions of dollars, or it might be some random lady who's like a widow. It does that anybody, right? But you have everything to lose that you still haven't created yet. Because a lot of times we might think, I used to think this, I was out here in California riding around on my motorcycle, don't have a woman, my buddy and I are running a business. It wasn't super successful, but like we're fine, we're paying the bills and everything. I'm like, man, I got nothing to lose. But I didn't have a family. I was still emotionally unstable. Like I wasn't building like we had a business going, but it's like I wasn't like really really focused on like let's grow this thing as big as possible, man. It was also him and I were living life and experiencing California and enjoying it, but it's like we have everything to lose that we haven't already created. Somebody that's focused on hope, they're not taking the responsibility to create something, and they're not actually living by their power as a creator. And so, I mean, as far as a conversation with somebody who's focused on hope, you know, I mean, bro, you don't have to live in the delusion. Like, you don't have to live in the delusion that somebody else is going to create something for you, and that's exactly what the system that we live in now. It wants you to think, it's like, yeah, we will take responsibility for everything for you. We will tell you how much you're going to get paid, when you're going to get paid, but you're never really going to live the life that you truly want to live, nor for your family, anybody else. You're just going to be getting by. And so for me, yeah, that was a really big point. It's like you have to take responsibility, right? And you need to create more things, especially if you have kids and stuff, because they're just going to follow in your footsteps. So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like a longer answer, but yeah.
No, 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 that's fine. No, it's great. The more information we can get out there, the better. But yeah, like the business mindset, and you touched on the word earlier, authority. And in order for any of us to make a change in this world is to really wake up and be the authority in yourself. And what is the
Right.
root word of authority? Author, right?
Right.
We are the author of our own lives. We are the ones who take responsibility for ourselves in order to move forward. So if anybody's out there, trying to figure out a way to move their business forward, be the author. Start writing down what you want.
Hmm.
It's a nice little segue into the end of the podcast here. Wrapping it all up, can you paint a picture for everybody out there, or we can both do it together, of what the world would look like without change, without the idea of what is best for all? Because right now we see,
Without it,
what's that?
without it,
With no change, what does this world look like? All the decisions that we
uh,
make without the concept of best for all. What does this look like? Not for us, for but for our kids and everybody else's kids. I can
yeah,
paint some pictures in there too, but
sure. So I would say to reflect back on the first time you watched the movie The Matrix, and when Morpheus takes Neo into the TV and they look at the dystopian world that's been happening, you know, I mean, it's not best. There's more war, really, in the world. Besides like the Matrix point, you could watch the Matrix. That's it. But um, I mean, it's not best, and there's more pain, more war, right? More suffering. I mean, there's over 20,000 kids that die every day of like preventable causes, right? We know these things. But it's like people just want to turn their eye and they don't want to look at that. Or if they do know it, they're not taking action on it because they're like somebody else will do something. But it starts with all of us. And so there's just going to be more people that are isolated, that are not expressing themselves. I mean, obesity rates are going up. You have different diseases that are that are just happening more and more and more on the incline. And it's all because of what we're experiencing within the mind and within ourselves and what we're accepting and allowing. And so if there's not going to be a change that's happening, I mean, it's very bad just for the human race in general. I mean, we have everything that we would need to create, a world that's best for all, for people to really, make some drastic moves. But I mean, honestly, if this doesn't happen, more and more people are going to go into survival mode. More and more people are just going to continue to have this negative mindset to where they want somebody else to take responsibility for their lives, for their happiness. We're going to continue to use drugs and alcohol more to suppress ourselves because we're not able to express ourselves. And I mean, it's just really not a good place to live in. And so, yeah, that's why we're doing what we're doing, because I mean, we have the power to change this, but it takes us doing something now. We can't just continue to kick the can down the road because that's what's gotten us to where we are today. And so the system is very successful in the way that it is, but also the outcome and the results of the system is also not best for the humans overall. It's a very great profit creating system. However, like profit over life doesn't really add up because all this money, but yet people are dying on the inside before they're actually physically dead, and it just doesn't add up. Money isn't going to live on this world by itself. Money isn't even a lot, so.
I want to put things into perspective for everybody who's watching and listening, and I want to challenge everybody who's watching and listening to open your eyes. And when I say open your eyes, like really look at the stuff that's really being put in front of you. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So this world is so abundant in resources, it's ridiculous. The fact that the world is 70% of the earth is covered in water, and there's still people who don't have access to water is mind-boggling. Open your eyes. Look at that. Why is that? Look, I went to Las Vegas last year, and Lee and I were walking down the strip, and we were walking in front of I think it was like the Paris Hotel, or I can't remember. it was one of the nicer ones, and we see homeless people sitting out front of the hotel.
Hmm.
You drive into park your cars. This is Las Vegas. Anybody who's been to Las Vegas know that Las Vegas does it up another level when it comes to, opulence and food. And like the food that comes on the plate is so much. And you're hard pressed to finish it all. All right. Why is there a homeless guy sitting there sleeping in Las Vegas in amongst opulence
So
and
much money.
riches everywhere?
Yeah, so much money everywhere. Yeah.
The Super Bowl, another example, just happened whenever I post this, it happened a couple weeks ago. It cost $7.5 million for a 30-second commercial.
Hmm.
$7.5 million.
Hmm.
Average ticket price for regular Joe like yourself and myself to, sit in the nosebleeds of Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, conveniently enough. $7,500 for a ticket. One ticket. Private boxes, $7 million. And you see all these celebrities on the big screen jumbotron. If you were to pool all that money, $7.5 million for each company that paid for a spot, what could that do to change in this world? Right. And then I want to go on the topic of climate change. Reason I bring that up a lot is because in Canada, Justin Trudeau is all about climate change and the
Right.
big issues, which is a load of crap. Again, open up your eyes. So as the Super Bowl ended, you could see all these celebrities that were at the game leaving on their private jets. So there's, paparazzi filming who's walking out, and the majority of these celebrities that are walking out is speaking out against climate change while they're going on their private jets to go home. When they can drive or for a half an hour, they got to fly, you know. So it's these kind of things that I challenge people. Look at these things. You're hearing one thing, how climate change is bad and homelessness is on the rise, and certain countries don't have clean water. Look at it as a whole. Where does water come from? Why is there people starving? There is abundance of money. One more thing. Remember those fires in Maui that happened a while ago?
Yeah. Don't
You
get
had
canceled.
you had The Rock, The Rock and Oprah coming on the
Yeah.
TV screen, asking everybody to donate money. We're going to donate $1 million each to help rebuild, but open up your pocketbooks, your wallets, and give to the residents of Maui. What happened there is garbage. I do, like, it's sad that shit happened. But you're going to get these two of the richest celebrities on the planet to ask everybody to open up your wallets who have trouble paying mortgages and
Right.
rising inflation costs when it comes to buying food, can't afford it, to fix the town. Again, fortunate that happened, but $1 million, you guys combined, The Rock and Oprah combined, are hundreds of millions of dollars. That's what they're worth. And you're going
Yeah.
to,
Billions.
exactly.
Billions.
Yes,
Yeah.
$1 million is a lot of money. I'm not saying it's nothing, but you could do more. Why don't you get 10 of your friends who have millions of dollars and pool
Right.
all money?
Each of you put in $1 million. Yeah.
If every celebrity was to put in $1 million, pool that, what could that change in this world? I think the U.S. just committed 290 some odd $1 million to for aid in Ukraine or something going on in
Yeah.
Europe. And they actually, I wish I could find the source of this. If I can, I'm going to put it in the description below. But they said that amount of money the amount of money to fix the issues in the United States when it comes to mortgage rates and homelessness, all that kind of stuff, costs less than the amount of money that went over to Europe. So
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy how like we have people who are like an influencer being like a celebrity and they have a platform, but then look at how they're using their resources. And then you have this space where now people are wanting to be influencers on social media because you want to create this like celebrity type life for yourself where you're thinking everything's just going to be, covered for you because you're a celebrity now as well and you're making all this money and you're just not even having to take responsibility. And it's like, look, man, like if you got all this money, what are you actually going to do with it? Because the people who do have all the money, look at what they're actually doing with it, and it's not best. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
going to change that.
Yeah. So yeah, I challenge everybody out there, open your eyes. Open your eyes and look at everything, not on the surface level, go deeper, and you're gonna find some pretty astonishing answers. So
Yeah,
on that note,
definitely.
we're gonna end off.
Cool.
Austin, thank you so much for your insight, your storytelling, and anybody out there, a round of applause. The way he presented
Appreciate it.
uh, his origin story is phenomenal. And yeah, of course there were holes in there, but that's good though. That's good. People want to know more. Go reach out to them. Go have a conversation and talk. And if anybody has any conversation, any questions about what we talked about today, bring it on. Like, we're here for a conversation. Like, this is good. It's good to have these kind of debates because we
Yeah.
educate one another.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I mean, thanks for having me on, man. Like you're doing something really good here. And like the conversations that you and I have had personally have been really good. I mean, just what we're doing within this community is great. So yeah, I mean, reach out to Rob, reach out to myself. I mean, we have some great free resources. I mean, we're obviously it's like we're doing things to help our kids, people that want to homeschool their kids or just even entrepreneurs, anybody and everybody, like ages 3 to 93 can get involved with what we're doing because this is life. This is the way that you can actually start to see yourself, especially if you want change, especially if you want something better than what you've already been experiencing. It's like we're supporting that. So yeah, dude, shout out to you, I mean, for like having this podcast and just wanting to share more of people's stories in general, because this is what people need to see. It's like there's a lot of people who want change, but they're not utilizing, excuse me, a simple platform. And so that's what you're doing. So yeah, man, I'm happy to be on here and I'm looking forward to seeing you, in Miami, spending some more time together. And then it'll be good to do this again, to have Giselle on there and just kind of see
Absolutely.
the saga of our lives, progress. So
Awesome. Awesome. So again, thank you very much. And everybody, links below, reach out to us. Until next time, we'll see you online. Peace.
appreciate it.